Good afternoon. Today I am going to correct and improve the student's essay you can see printed below. The areas marked in bold I'm going to pay particular attention to. If you are listening to this on YouTube, you can click on transcript to see the written form of my talk. And where I read sentences incorporating my changes, the student should rewrite these into his essay to help him understand the changes and remember them. So let's begin by looking at the first paragraph. The English is okay in this first paragraph, but the content is weak. Although the English has no mistakes, the student is going to lose marks because he has not taken the opportunity to demonstrate his ability to use different grammar and vocabulary. So never forget that the most important thing when you're answering any question in an English exam is to demonstrate your ability to use a wide vocabulary and variety of grammar. This first paragraph is really not saying much more than what the question has already said. Should things be changed? Should we change the retirement age? The first paragraph in an essay should usually be used to describe the subject of the question, which is retirement age of 65. So let me give you a better example of how this paragraph could have been written. It has been traditionally thought that we work hard all our lives, then when we reach the ripe old age of 65, we stop working and spend every day doing all the things we had wanted to do all of our lives. For example, take a journey around the world in a luxurious cruise ship. Full stop. Nowadays, however, people are questioning this idea. Full stop. So that would be a far better introduction using more vocabulary. Often the biggest problem for students is not the quality of their English, but the quality of their imagination. You're going to be able to demonstrate much better English if you have a good imagination, if you can create stories, especially stories which you can talk about easily. Here's another example. My grandfather, who is now 90, stopped working when he was 65, and since then he has complained every day that his life is extremely boring. Full stop. He really wishes he had been able to continue working because his job was really enjoyable and gave him a reason to live. Period. So we can see clearly that not everybody wants to retire at 65. Period. So again, another example using a wide range of vocabulary and grammar. Let's look at the second paragraph now. I'm going to read the sentences and include my changes. In my opinion, with technological and medical progress, here, people can continue to work after the age of 65. Indeed, many jobs have now been automatized, which reduces the physical difficulties of many jobs which older people may find they are unable to do. I've changed that sentence because the sentence was not very clear. Next sentence, for example, most trains nowadays are powered by electricity and don't need a train driver to constantly put coal in the engine. Here the student could have given a bit more detail to emphasize the point that old people can now do this job because it is not physically strenuous. So I'm going to add another sentence here before secondly. Similarly, many other jobs nowadays do not have the physical demands of jobs in the past, so can easily be done by older people. Next sentence. Secondly, physical problems or health issues are often easily cured, which enables people to live longer and therefore work longer. Now the next sentence, old people can work, should really have followed the sentence about the train driver, because it is talking about the lack of necessity to have physical skills. In fact, this is really repeating the example about the train driver. So we should probably get rid of this sentence. The next sentence, talking about the salesperson, we could use that as another example, so let's change that slightly. No, actually, looking at that sentence, it has a lot of mistakes. Let me correct the mistakes first. Most of the salespersons or salespeople in drugstores, old women who use their experience to help customers. Respond correctly to demand really is not a clear phrase, but this is not really a very good sentence in terms of content. It doesn't really illustrate very well the situation where an old person can continue working because the job is not physically arduous anymore. It would have been better actually to go into more detail about the train driver. Usually it is better when you choose your example to just stick to that one example but go into it in more detail. So let's go back to the train driver, and before the sentence secondly, when we began talking about health issues, let's put in some more detail about the train driver. My grandfather used to be a train driver, and he has told me that it was a very hard job. He spent many hours each day putting coal into a burning hot engine while the sweat poured off his body. But nowadays, he tells me, all you have to do is push a few buttons. Full stop. So you see, the way to write a good essay and get better marks is to go into more detail and try to think of interesting vocabulary, like the sweat pouring off his body. Let's move to paragraph 3 now. Now this whole paragraph has a problem in that it's talking about a loop, and I understand what the student is trying to say, but that idea is really unclear. He is talking about the fact that if old people don't retire, then this won't make way for young people to get jobs, especially in the modern world where youth unemployment is in many countries as high as 50%. So let me see if I can rewrite this paragraph in a better way. So on the other hand, many people think the official retirement age should stay at the age of 65 because the labour market for young people demands it. Next sentence, when older workers retire, they vacate a job and new workers can then be employed. This is really essential because the unemployment rate for young workers is extremely high in many countries. Next sentence, extending the retirement age beyond 65 would exacerbate this problem. Exacerbate. Final paragraph 4. Here again the paragraph has a problem that it's not really taking the opportunity to introduce new vocabulary, and it's really repeating what has already been said. So let me change this to conclude. Although it may be advantageous for some older people to continue working in a society where jobs are limited, this may not be the best policy. Full stop. So I haven't really said anything different, but just added more vocabulary and taken a slightly different point of view. In my conclusion, the main problem here is not so much the English, but the lack of good content in the essay. The student needs to try to use his imagination to create stories in the essay, which will give him the opportunity to demonstrate wider grammar and vocabulary. Never forget that although it is of course necessary to answer the question, there are usually many different ways in which the question can be answered. So giving priority to the language we use may be more crucial. Let me remind the student to rewrite the parts of the essay I have changed to consolidate his learning and memory. Okay, bye for now.